Why is it so difficult to get an upfront answer on what your rate will be with a lender? I called 4 and none would just tell me. This is such an important question because I get it all of the time. So let's get into it. First things first, if you ever call a lender and you say, hey, what is my interest rate today? And they actually tell you an interest rate, run. Very far and very fast, run. This is because your interest rate really depends on many different factors. So what are these factors? The first one is your credit score, right? So what is your credit score? If you have a 620 credit score, you're going to have a very different interest rate than somebody who has an 800 plus credit score. The second is how much of a down payment are you putting down? If you're putting 20% down, your interest rate might be a little bit better than somebody's who's only putting 3% down. Another factor is what is your debt to income ratio? And your debt to income ratio changes depending on the sales price of a home. Some people will get pre-approved for $500,000, but they only want to use like $300,000, and then their debt to income ratio is lower, hence their interest rate might be lower for it. If you've made it this far, you're probably thinking, well, why can't I just tell the loan officers all this information if I know it myself? And unfortunately, you might be shocked to hear this, but there are people who just don't tell you the truth. When I first started my career as a loan officer 7 years ago, I actually used to tell people what the interest rates were every day over the phone. Until this one time, this guy came back to me 2 weeks later after the market had changed, because shocker, it changes every day, and demanded he get the same interest rate that I quoted him without him filling out an application 2 weeks ago. And then when he did fill out an application, his debt to income ratio was like 78%, which, just so you guys know, anything like over 50% is not eligible for a mortgage. So after that, I realized if I don't get a full pre-approval application in my file so I can actually quote you a rate based off that day's rates, knowing it's subject to change and actually be able to educate you, then I can't just like throw out an interest rate out there. And this is a little bit of a hot take, but also you shouldn't be working with a lender just because they give you the lowest interest rate. You should be working with them because they're actually a mortgage consultant and you feel comfortable that they're going to help you through one of the biggest investments of your life without being sketchy. Because the other thing to look out for is lenders that will quote you really low interest rates, and then all of a sudden you're bringing like a ton of money a week before closing and your hands are tied. So you definitely have to work with somebody you trust when you're purchasing a home, which is a huge, huge investment. For more home buying tips, make sure to follow along.